Hey guys, this is your video about the Research Document 1 assignment. There are very many different parts to this research document, and as I have stated here, it would be extremely beneficial to hop in during the office hours to discuss your research or schedule a meeting to discuss your research, because those are very important aspects as you are working towards it. You are actually really designing your whole research study, and then your document 2 would be similar, and then revising it again and then doing an IRB. So all of these are being built with each other. So let's look at the first one. So your first prompt is summary of the research purpose, rationale, and potential behavior. And I do talk about questions to write 1 or 2 paragraphs about your research, and make sure you have 2 to 3 references. Do not summarize your research study. That's not what it is, but just put the references where it is, and you do not need to have a reference list. So this is for 20 points, and what I do is I actually give you questions. Those are the prompts that help you focus as you are doing this. So what are your study objectives? That is basically what is your project's purpose. Why is this research important? What is the rationale for it? How will this project contribute to the discipline? Is your potential benefits? And then what are your research questions? So remember that when you are writing the objectives, why is it important, and contribution, it does not have to be 5 pages long. It just needs to be 1 or 2 paragraphs, and those paragraphs also do not have to be 2 pages long. That is too much. Just 2-3 lines about one, 2-3 lines about another one, 3-4 lines about another one. That is more than enough. 1 or 2 paragraphs. And make sure to have references. You have to have references in them and cite them appropriately using APA. So the next one is describe your participants. Who are your participants? Are they students? Are they adults? Are they teachers? Like when they're adults, are they teachers? Are they supervisors? Are they employees? Who are they? If they are students, are they from multiple classrooms, your own classroom? What is the age range of students? If you talk about elementary students, what's the age? Because elementary students can go from 5 years to 10 years, right? Are you doing all of them? Are you only doing like 6 to 9 or 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds? When you're doing of adults, are you doing 20 to 25 years, like when you're doing those young adults, college students, or even like first-year teachers? Are you doing like 20 to 30 years, or you could even do 30 to 50 years? Like, what is the range? How many do you estimate? So are they 10 teachers, 12 teachers? How many do you? All of those things go under the describe your participants. Recruitment of your participants. Again, how will your participants be recruited? Will you, if they're adults, will you be doing, sending a consent form, doing Google Forms? If they are students, will you send a consent form home? Will there be a parent consent? So if they are students, the context of the study becomes is which classroom are they? What is the subject area? If they are teachers, are they all teachers or reading teachers or dyslexia teachers? Students, are they dyslexia? So this specificity is the part that you are looking at, right? How are you doing it? Is this your workplace? Is this related to your daily work? Or is it gathered outside your workplace? If you are a classroom teacher and you have one classroom, but you're including the other classrooms, which is perfectly okay, especially if you need a bigger sample data is, so it is, you are going to say current classroom and also the other classrooms, right? So this is all about the recruitment of the participants. Now, this is the most important question of all the questions that are there in this research document. Describe your methods, basically your research procedures and methods of data collection. So describe your methods of data collection. First prompt, what is your research design? Are you thinking quantitative, qualitative, or mixed methods? Or it's a case study because you may have only 1 or 2 participants. Or you could do an ethnographic if you're immersing yourself in the study. I would not recommend that, especially if you want a measurable and within a semester long study. What type of data will be collected? So what are you collecting? Are you collecting perceptions? Are you collecting comprehension? When you're talking about comprehension about reading or fluency, like what are you collecting? That is your data. How are you collecting is, would it be a questionnaire that you give? Would it be a test that you give? Would it be a survey? Would it be an interview questions? How are you collecting all of those things? And how long will you think it's going to be there? So suppose if you're doing something like a pre and a post survey, then how long is the assessment intervention going to be in between? When you do a pre-survey here, will you give a week long and then do the post assessment? And when you're doing that intervention, what that intervention would look like will go under your research design. So all of those aspects are very important to think about. As you work through them, feel free to come meet via office hours. Please be sure that I will not have office hours on Saturday and Sunday. I will not be able to meet over the weekend. So you have to work ahead on these documents, okay? Procedures for confidentiality and anonymity is, how are you going to maintain the confidentiality of the participants? Will it have names of the participants? Will you only be reporting through the IDs of it? Will the data be reported as an aggregate or analyzing them? How are you going to be doing? Like if, let's say you have a study in which, like a math one, I'm going to give you a math example. I wanted to see the effect of manipulatives, place value based 10 blocks on student understanding of place value. I do a pre-assessment. I do a week-long intervention in which I use the base 10 blocks and 2 place value and all of those. Then I do a post-assessment. So when I talk about the confidentiality, I would say is there would be no student names. Only the pre and the post-assessment would be matched, and the data, like a quantitative data, would be run, and only the results will be reported as an aggregate. So all of those things to think about. Here, where will the data be stored? So here again, from the same example that I was talking about, this would be, I would store it in a password protected computer for 3 years, which is only accessible to me. And so those are things to think about as you work through password protected computer, locked cabinet, all of those things. Now, consent form. What different consent forms would you need for this study? So your own study. So if I am collecting data on graduate class, in our applied research class, I would need consent form from my department chair that I can do something like this, right? So for in your case, it could be a supervisor, a principal. If you're conducting study in with students with different teachers, classroom, then you would need consent from the teachers, maybe from the parents. If you're only doing from the adults, you definitely, like if it's a workplace, is your supervisor, and then consent from the adults. So everybody's going to be very different in what kind of a research study you have. So that's one of the big things to think about as you move forward. So what I did here was, I did a sort of a snapshot of what the grading would look like. 5 points, 4, 3, 2, 1. So mostly every prompt, when I say every prompt, I mean every question that is there is about 5 points. So when you answer that question, if you answer it clearly, specifically, with having different components aligned to each other, it shows efforts, it is measurable and doable. For example, somebody talked about, I'm going to measure brain development. Well, you cannot measure brain development. How are you going to get the data? That is no way measurable in a semester. Now, you definitely can do it as a doctoral program, or if you have some other sort of a thing, but to figure that out in a semester is not doable. So that is one of those things that I'm talking about. Like if you say, I am going to collect data from every school district in Central Texas. Will you be like, I know you can send the Google form and everything, but keep it realistic. Yes, you can do it. I'm not saying that, but keep it realistic. Will you have time to do every school district in Central Texas? Okay. So those are the things to think about. No spelling mistakes. Once again, 4 points. Basically here, the difference between this is the fact that the different components are somewhat connected to each other. Answer may have less of clarity on things like that. The prompt here is your answers lack clarity. Now you can read this if you have, I don't expect any one of you to have spelling mistakes, but if you have spelling mistakes, it's going to reduce down to 3 points for that prompt. The way I have set up a rubric is so that you guys actually score between 5 and 4 mostly, or a bit of 3 in some of the prompts, because this is your first attempt on this document. This document is for 85 points, not 100 points. That also is another reason is I took those 15 points and I'm going to put it for the second research document so that you guys have some sort of a growth there and you can score higher there. But the way I have set it up is because this is initial, I am hoping, well, when I say hoping, yes, I am hoping that most of you fall within 5, 4, and 3. And there are not like crazy answers like I'm going to investigate brain development or how neurons affect dyslexia students. That is not doable in this research study. So once again, talk to me, let us discuss. I am always here to help you get some ideas flowing. You have a study group? If not, create one and discuss with your peers. All your research are different. Talk to them, like what do they think about this? Is this doable? Is this not measurable? What is you are collecting? You have to really think about what variables, what are you measuring? That is the most important thing. Okay? All right, best of luck, and I look forward to seeing how this comes alive.